We are starting the 12th of these little journeys down the Southwest Branch. And to begin this, I have a map, a contemporary map showing the area between Route 30 at the top and Huff Avenue down at the bottom. And we're going to see the Brick Works, which was once where this warehouse is now. And then we're going to go across the tracks to see the old Walworth Valve plant, which was a very large operation. This is the Brick Works, and you see this from up on where Route 30 now runs. That's the Brick Works, Southwest Branch, and this is was Walworth Valves. The brickworks were very much connected with the management of the mine across the road, Keystone number 1. The two major shareholders here were the two sons of George Franklin Huff, Lloyd and Julian Huff. And this ran into the 1950s, I believe, making bricks called Keystone Red. It was like Keystone Bricks. There was Greensburg bricks. After into the 30s and into the 40s, they started making Westmoreland brick, and then in the 50s, I think they went out of business. This is the Sanborn mapping showing Mount Pleasant Road is now called Broad Street here, and Route 30 runs across about right here. This is a woodcut I did of Walworth Valves in the 80s. Showing the Southwest Branch. And this is a map, topo map. It gives you a good impression of the footprint of Walworth Valves, how big it was. It was humongous. In the 1920s, there was a newspaper article saying that they were hiring 1,500 people. That was bigger than anything else in the area. And this is 1901, just about 10 years after Kelly and Jones started up. Kelly and Jones was the origin of Walworth. This was the beginnings of South Greensburg over here. The beginnings of South Greensburg were about 1988. There were 1888, excuse me. There were 50 houses built, and that's where it started. And this is Kelly and Jones after it was up and running for a while. This building over here became a matter of interest to local historical people into history and historic preservation, because it was a prototype structure. And when the place was to be torn down in the 80s, a lot of people said, well, this can be put on the National Register, and it could. It was a prototype structure of E.L. Ransom. It was one of the original buildings that he made using a certain type of loft structure using reinforced concrete. And it looks like every other old factory building you've ever seen, but the reason it looks like that is because it is the prototype, and but it was so badly damaged over a period of time that they decided to tear it down. This is that very building with that streetcar going by it. This is a Leroy Smeltzer photo. This is the same building. Again, a Leroy Smeltzer photo. This is the old factory looking more or less south. This is another Smeltzer photo from up in the air. And it's rather grainy looking because it's a detail from a larger shot. Also somewhat compressed looking. The buildings, using a long focal length lens, buildings tend to get, any structures tend to get compressed. This building still remains. This building still remains. Most of it, rest of it had been wiped out. A shot I did in the 80s. This was what it was like inside. Pouring hot metal into a mold to make fittings and valves. And this was the place inside. This is another Leroy Smeltzer photo. This photo somehow reminds me of stories I've heard about guys showing up for work in the morning at places like this and having a heart attack right at the door. I mean, just the thought of another day in hell was just too much to put up with. This is the factory floor. And here's a guy down here working on one of the big gate valves. Here are a couple of the big gate valves. Here are some more guys back here working. This photo is from the County Historical Society, but you can see they weren't necessarily pretty places to work in. Here's one of the fellows that worked there. Another Leroy Smeltzer photo. Maybe somebody knows who this guy is. I don't. Shot from the air. A lot of other interesting things show up here. You can see the old streetcar barn. You can see Whit Humphrey Steel over here, which is also gone. Hempfield Foundries up here. And there was once a train yard right here, which is the parking lot now for the Five-Star Trail. This is the machinery. This is the actual one of their products, the kind of stuff that they were working on. That's a big gate valve. This is some of the smaller things, including the old Stilson wrench that they pioneered there. This is the time in the 80s when they were destroying the place, tearing it down. I did these shots then. And this is the last. And I just want to recall that there are a lot of people around still who know a lot more about this place than I do. And if anyone has anything that they want to add or contribute or contradict even, I don't care, because I realize I don't know as much about it, nearly as much as some of the people who are still with us. And in some cases, there were 2 and 3 generations of the same family worked there. And that was a lot of experience in putting their lives into that place. And we've come to an end now of number 12, and we say so long, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.